Following paid program is sponsored by Henningsen Injury Attorneys.
Hello and welcome into Lawyer Talk, the talk show that's all about arming you with information that you need should the situation arise and you need some legal help. We've got a legal expert about to dive into a conversation that we think will really be helpful for you today. But some ground rules all throughout the program tonight. You'll see a number and a website displayed on the screen. Take advantage of that opportunity. The number to know, you may want to even write this down, is 404-835-4935. The website is atlantapiattorney.com, a great resource. And again, should you, during the course of the conversation, a question or you need some feedback, need some legal advice, need to reach out, take advantage of that phone number and also that website. Want to welcome in our legal expert, Todd Henningsen. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you as well.
Thanks for joining us. Love these get-togethers because it really is an opportunity to unpack some legal matters that can be intimidating and really complex and confusing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of myths out there in terms of what's going on and how cases work. And what we're specifically talking about is personal injury cases.
Right.
That's what I specialize in. That's what I've devoted my career to. I've been doing it now for 17 years.
Wow.
It's evolved over the years. Mm-hmm. But it is amazing to me, just because people don't have that much of an interaction with attorneys on a regular basis, the misconceptions that are out there.
Yeah, and that's something, and we've been together a few times, that really seems to be almost like a passion or really kind of a mission point for you is helping folks realize that there are answers out there.
That's right. And I believe information is power. And if you are armed with that information, there's a lot of personal injury attorneys out there.
Right.
You want to be able to, first of all, if you decide you need an attorney, you've been in a situation in which you need an attorney, then you need to decide who's the right attorney for me. And if you have a baseline understanding and a baseline knowledge, you're able to compare the answers of these attorneys, understand what's going on, and make sure that you're getting the right representation for you.
Right. How often or how popular is the question, what is my case worth?
That's probably the number one question I hear.
Start, yeah.
And I don't want it to, it's not that people are being greedy. Right. I think is it worth my time and effort?
Yeah.
What should I expect? Where should my expectations be?
Right.
And typically very early on in a case, it's tough to get an answer to that. Right. Because there's a lot of factors that go into considering that. But the way in which you value a case, the true way in which you value a case is what would 12 people, unbiased, sitting on a jury, having to get to hear all of the evidence from both sides, listening to a judge instruct them on the law, what do they come back with?
All right.
Do you win? Do you lose? And if you win, how much do you win?
Yeah.
So that, I hate to say that, but that's essentially the value of your case. But we have other ways in which to determine the value. I mean, if you've been doing it for as long as I have, 17 years, and then you have colleagues that do it, and then there is published data. A lot of stuff could be settled confidentially, so we don't know what's happening. But if you just talk to other attorneys, understand what they're doing, look at what your case, any case that you're working on is happening with that, then you would have the opportunity to have a better picture of it.
Do you think, in terms of your experience, nearly 2 decades now, do you think one of the things that as time goes and you get more experience, that you really do get better at more quickly assessing what is the case, and we're really maybe even is there a case?
Yes.
You think so?
I think absolutely. I'll get calls from younger lawyers, and lawyers do this all of the time as well, and I will consult with lawyers who I believe are experienced as well. What do you think about this? Because they may have had an experience that is different than me, but the more experience that you have, the more times you've had to go to trial with the person, the more times you've had a similar case or similar incident or similar case law or something like that, yes, I believe that you can make the decisions much faster.
You know, I love legal shows and those legal movies, all the John Grisham novels and these great movies, and you see these dramatic cases before a trial. You know, that just makes a great movie or a great TV show. How, in your experience, do most cases go to trial before get before a jury?
No.
Really?
No. That's a big misconception. It is expensive. It is time consuming. It's risky at times. I mean, cases are being tried every day in the courtrooms.
Right.
But the percentage that are out there, it's very small. There is some security in resolving the case. And most of my clients, you know, when you're getting to a point of resolving a case, I tell my clients one of three things, right? One is, hey, this is a really good offer. I like this offer. Let me tell you why. Take the money and run, okay? Mm-hmm. The other is, please do not take this money. This is not an offer that we consider to be appropriate.
Right.
And these are the reasons why. And here are the next steps. And then sometimes I fall in the middle and say, it's a close call.
Right.
It's really up to you. So there's a risk associated with settlement versus litigation. If you go into litigation, you're not assured of getting the number that they offered you before. You could get less. Mm-hmm. You could get more. I mean, that's the goal. Mm-hmm. But what's happening lately is judges, and I think they've recognized that there's a benefit to this, and the court system itself has moved towards, as you go through the litigation process, saying you need to go to a third party, a neutral, either a mediator or an arbitrator, and sit down and talk about this. A lot of the lawyers, and a lot of times we sit back and we're like, we'll see you in court, you know. Right. I mean, you know, yeah. I don't want to say it like that, but that's kind of what we're saying. Right. And so they cross their arms and wait. Well, judges now are forcing you into a mediation. Yeah. And what happens with a mediator is they come in and they sit down and they say, hey, where are you at on this right now? You know, this is confidential. And then you say to the other person, where are you at on this? And what do we need to do? So it helps bring some of the people together, and the cases tend to resolve before trial. Right. Yeah. So a lot of cases still go into litigation, which means a lawsuit has been filed, but then you're going through that process, and then it resolves before you actually try the case. Right.
We're going to get right back to our conversation. I do want to remind folks about how you can get in touch and kind of reach out to Todd and his team, an amazing team. The number to know is 404-835-4935. I would encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. Give them a call. Oftentimes, we don't know, you and I, we're not lawyers. We don't know if there's a case. The way you can find out for sure if you have a case is to call that number and set up an appointment and run the whatever you're dealing with by them. Again, that number is 404-835-4935, and then the website is atlantapiattorney.com. Todd, let me ask you a question, because there are some phrases in the law and oftentimes in advertisements, and you just hear phrases all the time. I wonder if you can clear up a couple of them for me. One of them is this: that past behavior is predictive of future behavior. Help us understand what that means and how that applies kind of in the legal setting.
So I think that what we're trying, what an insurance carrier wants to do, okay, is they want to get some type of standardization and normalcy, just like any business, right? So you can forecast and understand it. So what they do, and there's one insurance company in particular, and there's a program that's out there that's designed to do this. So that if you have a personal injury case and it goes into their system, they're saying, okay, well, let's find 7 factors that we believe are relevant to try to evaluate this claim. But it's a closed process, and this is going to get lost on some people. It gets lost on other attorneys sometimes. But if a case was settling 3 years ago for $7,000. They want the case to settle now for $6,500, and they want that to become the new benchmark. And then they want $6,500 to become $6,000 if they're similarly situated cases. Now, every case is unique. Every case has its own set of circumstances, but you have to understand they're processing thousands and tens of thousands of claims. They want to understand how they can normalize this process. So they could probably come up with data to show that, right? We're big into data now with all the technology that we have. What my job is to say this isn't just a person, a number to you, right? This is a person, and their life has been affected. That's what personal injury is. It is an emotional experience. You've been injured. You've been out of work. You may be behind on your rent or your mortgage. Your children may have been affected, your wife or your spouse or significant other. So it's a personal experience that they're trying to commoditize.
Right.
And that's the reason that we work hard to make sure that the adjuster who's making the decisions isn't just looking at a computer system and comparing dots, connecting dots to say this.
Yeah.
Because experiences can be different for everybody.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but the scenario you described, how an insurance company, because there's so many cases they're seeing, the individual could turn into a number. That's also might be an issue with a super large law firm to where you're just a number that's plugged in.
Yes, I agree. We call them settlement mills because it's just, you can be just another number because they've got more behind you. That's not how our philosophy is and how we work. I actually look at it as once hopefully you've come and you need our help, I call it our internal marketing system at that point, which is good customer service, good client care, making sure that we set your expectations appropriately. Whether that be, I've had some where I've had to adjust the expectations upwards for clients and others where I've had to adjust the expectations downwards for clients, right? And this is why. And, my job is to guide you through that process. My job is to explain to you what the law is, why we believe certain things, and then the decision's yours as to how we proceed. We work on a contingency fee basis.
Right. Explain what that means again.
So that means that there is no fee unless and until we're successful on your claim. So there's no upfront cost. If you call the office now, email me now, there's no cost for a consultation. We want to call in. We want to talk to you. We want to see if you have something viable there, something that we can help you with. And if it's truly, I've had cases that I've said, oh, this is a viable case, but you've done a good job, and I think I'm actually going to be a detriment to you. I'm going to be taking money from you if I get involved in this case. Let me give you your next steps. And people have been very appreciative of that. And the reason I do it is because down the road, typically, it could be a year or two later, they call me back and they say, hey, I had a friend who just got into a wreck or a family member and you helped me and now I've got that case to work on. So that's kind of how the system is with us.
And contingent, so for me, if I come to you for a case, there are no out-of-pocket expenses. The initial meeting, there's no cost to that. The follow-up meetings, there's no cost to that. There's only a cost should you be able to recover, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so nothing out of pocket.
Nothing out of pocket. We front the expenses. And if, technically, under the contracts, I think with the Georgia Bar, I think that you're required to say that expenses are owed, but I've never collected expenses on anybody if the case has been unsuccessful.
Right. So if someone calls the number 404-835-4935, they set up a consultation with you, that meeting, there's no cost there?
No.
How about that?
No, and we try to do our best to make sure that we are answering your questions, and we're very thorough about that. First question is, do you have a case? Second is, for you then is, are we the right fit for you? Right. And we want to prove that to you.
Yeah. So again, just real quick to reiterate the number to know, and also the website. This is important. I want to make sure that you get this. It's 404-835-4935. That is the number. Again, I'd encourage you to make note of that and write that down. And also AtlantaPIattorney.com if you would rather maybe email and reach out to to Todd and his team. In determining what a case is worth, sure. Just to me, there seems to be. It's just so all over the map. I'm kind of curious as to how the process you go to, because there seems to be a number of factors that might come into play that would determine the value of the case and if there's a case at all.
That's right. You have to look at the interplay between the law and the facts that you have presented in front of you. So first of all, it sounds silly, but I say it all the time. You have to be injured.
Right. Yeah.
So it is personal injury. And it's not what did a friend of mine say? It's not personal hurt, like you know, it's an injury that you actually experienced and that you received medical treatment for.
Okay.
So the nature and extent of your injuries is going to be a major factor to go towards your case value. If you have a mild to moderate soft tissue back, what I call modest but meritorious claim, you had back pain, neck pain, the typical thing you would see in maybe a rear end car collision, you made a good recovery, then we're not going to get millions of dollars, right? I mean, I typically tell my clients that if you're walking in here on your own accord into my office, you know, you're probably not looking at a multi-million-dollar claim. Many times, those are the people that are never going to walk into my office again, things of that nature.
Right.
So the injury is indicative. Another factor, so injuries, medical bills, medical treatment, necessity of treatment, the relatedness of the treatment. Did you injure a part of your body that you may have injured before in the past? Because that's going to change value because of the arguability of the reasonableness and the relatedness of that. And then another factor is the liability. Who's at fault?
Right.
Because first you have to be injured, but we also have to show who is at fault. And that is typically under a negligence theory. There can be a variety of other theories under that, but the typical case that you would see or standard situation and that people I think readily understand is a car wreck situation. Did somebody violate some law, cause a wreck and cause you an injury? Okay. Now, when you're looking at liability, that can also influence it's not binary. It's not the light switch is on, the light switch is off, right? It's not, well, yes, it's liability. Liability could be egregious, right? That could actually drive the value of the case.
Right.
For example, if you were struck by a drunk driver, we as a society, and should rightfully so, frown down upon that, and that opens up the availability of something called punitive damages.
Right.
So that's on top of anything to go to compensate you for your injuries.
Right.
So we can see significant value in those. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask you something because I know medical costs, they just seem to be getting kind of out of control. And every time I go back, like every year, they just seems to be escalating. What I would think, first of all, from an insurance company, they would not like. I would think that would be a negative for them, the rising costs. So how does that factor in to the case, kind of the rising cost of medical care?
You know, so what we're seeing a lot of these insurance companies, they're mad about it. And they are putting their foot down and just saying, well, we're not going to pay that. And it's not right. And I'll tell you why. Because you as off the street, me off the street as an individual, we have no say over how much the medical bill is. I deposed a doctor probably a few months ago. And I said, doctor, does a patient get to tell you how much you're going to pay? Right?
What kind of a business model?
It's all right. It's not. You can't have it your own way, right? You can't choose your own way and choose your own adventure on it. So it's frustrating to auto insurers, but that's their issue. They're still responsible for payment of that bill. Now, what it has done, though, is those bills have gotten so significant, the coverage amounts haven't changed. The minimum amounts of insurance coverage that are available.
Right.
So it's put a lot of pressure on us to we may be getting more money on the case than you would have seen 5 years ago, but we got to pay a lot more out. So now we're having what I call the battle within the battle, which is getting them to pay and then getting everybody else to accept less so that the client can receive more.
Right. And there are many different types of coverage as well, and I would think that's a factor also.
Yes, absolutely. And there's health insurance that comes into play. I mean, you and I were before the show, we're talking about something called the collateral source doctrine,
right.
Which people just start glazing over. But what it essentially means is this: you're entitled in Georgia to claim the full amount of your medical bills, no matter how much health insurance paid. Okay, it's not just copays.
Say that one more time. All right, because that's a fancy phrase, collateral source doctrine. So explain that one more time.
Sure. In Georgia, you're entitled to claim the full amount of your medical bill.
Okay.
And I'll give an example.
All right.
No matter how much health insurance or Medicare or Medicaid paid or your copay, what we're seeing a lot of is the insurance company saying, we'll pay your copay and we'll go ahead and handle the rest of those bills, but they're trying not to pay the full value of the bill.
Really?
Yes, because what happens is, let's say you go to the hospital and it's a $5,000 bill. Your health insurance may only pay $1,000 and maybe your copay is $250. Well, what the hospital is trying to do is, or the health insurance, is trying to do is say, here's $250, and then they'll pay back the $1,000 to the health insurer and avoid paying the $5,000 bill, which is what they would have owed if you had gone to a jury trial situation.
Wow.
And some people don't like the collateral source rule. It is a very smart rule to help people who have been victims of personal injury.
So it seems to me it's more important than ever to have an attorney, first of all, who knows the lay of the land and kind of what's going on, but also someone who will be a champion for you, because I am certain there's someone that's going to be a champion for the insurance company.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in a catastrophic type of case, a tractor trailer wreck or something like that. Lawyers are out there, the defense lawyers are out there. Right. They've already planned their defense because you're probably not in a position to do that.
Right.
So we don't want to lose evidence. I rarely tell people that I don't create a false sense of urgency when I'm talking to a potential client. I don't say that, you hear, you got to sign the papers right now because evidence goes away and we need to get going and things like that. That's not what we're trying to do. We want you to make an educated and informed decision and just know that, if we do say that there's some urgency to this, we mean it and we'll tell you the reasons why. And a lot of times that's in the more catastrophic cases where we're trying to preserve evidence and things like that.
Yeah. How can our viewers, especially the folks who are with us right now, how can they determine, you use an interesting phrase about an attorney that's a right fit. Well, what is that? What do you mean by that? Because all these complex matters, and you're right, kind of glossing over some of the phrasing, but the bottom line is really having somebody that's in my camp and for me. But how do you get to finding the right fit?
I think it's hard out there. I think that the bar rules and advertising rules are set up to where, you can't say you're the best lawyer and it makes sense because that's such a subjective way of looking at all of this.
Yeah.
And that's why I say the right fit for you. And that's why I'm out here. We approach this as being one of an information-based, we want to give you the information. So many times we get phone calls from people who may have been with another attorney and they say, I had no idea that's how this worked. If I had known that, I wouldn't have done this. Or if I had known that, and maybe the attorney didn't know, maybe they didn't want to take the time to communicate that, but we have processes and procedures in place to make sure that we're communicating this information to you. And my staff, we meet on a frequent basis. We're going over the cases. You can come into my office and you can jump on the phone with me. But we, at the very beginning of every case, give you an overview. This is kind of where we're headed with this. This is why we're going to go this way. This is what I like about it. Every case generally follows the same general path. There could be some variations, but every case is unique to the person that's going through it.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure, especially if you've never gone through this or just don't know anything about it, it's tough.
Yeah. 17 years you've been in practice, and it seems as though you are very intentional about the way, the culture of your firm and what your mission is. Seems as though you're very intentional and very specific about what that's all about for you.
I am, and the reason for that is because I think I took some of the best practices at some fine law firms and some fine mentors that I worked for, and took those and then combined them and created my firm 10 years ago and wanted to do it the way in which I see it as being the best. And one of the rules we have is, and I know this sounds odd, but my fee is never going to be larger than what you're receiving. Right? So if my fee was $3,000 and you're getting $2,000, there's something wrong.
Right.
That shouldn't be happening. You were the one that got hurt. The lawyer shouldn't be taking more money. Now, hey, The contract may say the lawyer has the right to, but I think that is very short-minded and short-sighted thinking about this. I've wanted to be a firm that's going to be here for you, be here for the long haul, a place that you could just trust, and that's what we've set out to do. And we do it through giving you the information and being upfront with you.
Yeah, kind of arming them. That's really a part of what this show is, arming folks with information, educating them, and helping them make the right decision.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We don't have a great deal of time left, just 3 minutes remaining in the show. I want to give you a couple of things to talk about and then a final thought from you. Finally, on the matter of the insurance and the sliding scale and all of that, kind of understanding that, is that one area you think where, in your 17 years of experience, where folks are most either misunderstood or misinformed?
Yes.
Why so, and how so?
I think that insurance agents don't explain it.
Right.
Because I don't think that they understand it that well.
Yeah.
A lot of them. I'm not trying to throw all the insurance agents out. I'm sure there's some out there that know what they're doing. But I have a friend of mine who's a business owner, and he called me up and he said, I have some concerns about liability. And, about what would happen with this. He said, so I figured I'd call you. He's like, I don't want to call a corporate guy who doesn't do the work. Right. He's like, how would you come after me in a situation like this, or if this happened? What type of insurance do I need? What are the things that we do? So what has happened out there is that, the auto insurance, if there's only $25,000 in coverage and there's a death, and the person that caused the death doesn't have any money, there's really no other money to go after. Right. So you can really protect yourself, especially in the auto context, by buying underinsured or uninsured motorist coverage. And it protects you in the event that somebody hits you and doesn't have insurance, right, or has little insurance. Yeah. Now, if it's a corporation, they typically have a fairly significant policy. Right. But you can still be wound up with a case that I worked on where we had almost $2.5 million in coverage, but my client had a brain injury. I mean, we got, $1 million, but it's not enough. It's not enough for what you went through.
There's so much ground we can cover. We have less than a minute remaining in the show.
Oh, wow.
Anything you want to leave the folks with before we wrap things up?
Hopefully you don't need to give us a call. Right. Hopefully you're not sent at home injured, but if you're just, if you're looking for the right lawyer and you need somebody to talk to, give us a call. We're here and we are available to help. We want to make sure that we are doing a good job for you, and put our name down, put our number down for the future. I've had people call a year or two later saying, right, hey, I saw your show and just thought, I hope I don't have a car wreck, but I thought I'd give them a shout.
Yeah. Todd, thanks for the time.
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
It. Really appreciate it as always. And as we wrap things up, again, like Todd said, this number and that you need to know, and give them a call, 404-835-4935. That's the number to know. Make note of that. Also, the website, atlantapiattorney.com. If you'd rather lay out your case in an email, that might be an easier way to go. 404-835-4935 or atlantapiattorney.com. The information you need to know. We really appreciate you being with us, and we hope that this show has been helpful to you. We thank you again. Always enjoy our time together, and we'll look for you next time right here on Lawyer Talk.